Hey everybody, so I want to give you a little mini training on how to create even more value from Creator Circle, through Creator Circle. Got a whole bunch of notes here to walk through. Let's start with peer support, okay? Now, the reality is there's going to be people in Creator Circle who have different capacities and abilities to create in conversation. Of course there are. Now, if you look towards that circumstance as the indicator or the primary variable in the value that you create, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. And you're also not really accessing the power of what we're here to teach you in creating. And when I use the metaphor of I walk through a graveyard and dead bodies rise out of the ground to become coaching clients, that's a real meaningful and visceral experience for me of trying to explain what it's like to be in the world where you see yourself as the source, the producer, the generator of environment and circumstances. I mean, it's obviously absurd that a dead body could rise out of the ground and become a coaching client, but there's a level of absurdity that is necessary to explain how dramatic that your power is to create something different through how you decide you're going to see yourself in the world. And so you can put me in a conversation with my 7-year-old son or a 3-year-old son, and I will create the experience for myself that that's the most powerful coach on the planet. I will listen to them in such a way and see them in such a way where the insight that I create in that experience is profound, such that I could pay them. I mean, I have literally created more insight and more powerful transformation for myself through being coached by my kids than I have with coaches years ago when I wasn't bringing as much agency and power to that relationship as I do now with all my coaches. And so I want you to get that whilst there will be circumstances of people at different levels of power that an ability that are creating with you, that's an opportunity for you to create the most powerful experience for yourself by the way that you do a number of things. I'm going to walk through that. So let's look at it from you're the client. Let's look at it from that side first. Obviously, there's the role where you're being supported and there's a role where you're supporting. Let's look at first when you're the person being supported. How could you create that as the most powerful experience, even if you've got somebody who's just brand new to this stuff and they don't really have any experience creating in conversation? How could you still have that be super powerful, super valuable for yourself? Number one, the first thing you want to do, kind of obvious, but let's say it, come prepared. Spend time creating for yourself what you want to create in this conversation. Show up for the conversation with this person like they are the oracle, like they are the most powerful creator on the planet. Like being in conversation with them is always transformative. Show up that way in your preparation, both in the things that you've already done for yourself, like what is it that I would love to create today? What am I specifically really stuck on? What would I specifically love to be different, right? One of the reasons that my coaches are able to create so much with me is because I freaking tee it up for them. Like they're like a major league baseball player, and I'm coming with like, here's the tee, like for t-ball, and I'm putting the ball right on it, and I'm setting you up so perfectly that you can't not hit it out of the park with me. And so I'm making it easy for my coaches to be amazing, and also inviting them, finding the coaches that show up at a powerful level too. But it's the marriage of those two things. And so you do your part. You come so prepared where this person, even if they're brand new, they can't not knock it out of the park because you've been so clear and so specific about what you want and so able to articulate what your challenge is. I mean, how many times if you're honest, how many times have you showed up for a conversation just being like, well, I don't know what I want to create, kind of hands in pockets, whistling, let's see what you got, show me how great of a coach you are when I'm coming with no power, no agency, no responsibility at all for the value that I create in this relationship, which is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's laziness. It's projected judgment of self as judgment of them, So you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that because you're basically undermining your own creation of value. And look, Creator Circle, peer support, full circle, they are contexts with which you practice being in the world. It's a safe space for you to lean into things. It's a place where people are already ready, willing, and waiting for you to challenge them and challenge yourself. Stretch yourself. Use your body. Use your emotional body. Use your spiritual body in new ways. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Cut your teeth on new things so that you can get the experience that you can now bring that out into the world where there's more consequence because it's not a play place. It's not a practice place. It's the real world. This is your place to practice and create. Think of it like a dojo. So coming prepared, right? So number two, create that champion. So the person supporting you, that's your creating champion. Create who they are. And I mean that in two ways, as I always do. I mean, create your perspective of them as somebody who's profound. Yeah, so they think they've just started, but man, this person's been creating for a long time. They're a parent of kids, or they were a leader in a company, or the way that they are with themselves, and start seeing in them the power that they have to create in conversation, and you'll have more access to that power for yourself in the conversation with them. So elevate them in your mind. Create a perspective of them that has them be great, such that your listening has you access the greatness that is there that you're probably missing, and has you produce greatness that wouldn't be there if you didn't also bring to the conversation a perspective that they are great, right? So there's two wins in the very least in creating a perspective of them as powerful. The first is you stop missing the shit you were missing, and the second is you produce stuff that you wouldn't have produced because you're holding them in that light. That's the first thing. So that's the inside out, let's call it. Shifting your perspective, creating them in that way. The other way you want to create them is to use your mouth. So I used the metaphor when I was coaching a guy earlier today. I was creating a conversation with him. I'm trying to move that word coaching out of my vernacular. I was creating a dialogue with this guy. I was creating him, helping him to see something. And he was talking a number of times about the other programs he'd done and how this coach didn't show up that way for him and this program didn't really deliver that. And I was like, dude, where is the power in your relationship to this work, right? And I said, let me ask you something. If you said that you spent an hour with a dance partner and you were wearing flip-flops and they were wearing boots and and then after this dance, you danced with them for the hour and you said to me, man, that whole time they just kept stepping on my toes. And I'm like, for an hour they were stepping on your toes? Yeah. When you look at that, what do you see? You're like, shit, yeah, I guess they were stepping on my toes for an hour because at 2 minutes in when they first started stepping on my toes, I didn't say anything. That's how so many people create coaching relationships. They hire a coach, all these expectations, this person's going to save me. And then that coach doesn't show up in the same way necessarily because people change, life is dynamic, or whatever. Your expectations aren't met. And you just sit there with your mouth shut, you don't say anything about it. Say something. Here's what I would love you to do in this conversation for me. Here's who I'd love you to be for me. Here's what I'm looking for. Actually, I would love you to ask me more questions about this. Can you be more challenging? Can you be less challenging? Can we go deeper? Ask for what you want. Create the person, not just in your perspective, but in your speaking. Create people in the world. Allow everything. Don't judge it, but accommodate very little. Accommodate very little behavior, coaching, speaking from people that you know in your heart isn't going to be fulfilling for you. Don't wait 3 months to come to the Creative Circle feedback form to say, oh, this person's not being this way, or I wished I had more of that, which I was secretly wishing for 3 months until I got to put it in my assessment form. Maybe if I roll it out there, something will change. I want you to move through the world as a force of creation. I don't want a day to go by where something that you see as possible isn't spoken. Abra fucking cadabra, right? You create as you speak. And when you don't speak, you don't create. So if you see something that you want, go and get it. Use your loving heart, your open heart to ask for it. You don't need it. I'm not attached to it. I'm not judging you as I ask for it, but I see it as a possibility and I'm going to open my heart and ask for that. And if you don't know how to do that, then we're going to dance and create that together. Guess what? I can turn my head around and I can go from being client to creating champion like that because that's what's possible. So I can coach you on how to coach me. Then I get back in the seat and allow myself to be coached again. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's a lot of power in that. One of the things that I do a lot is to have my coaches get how I can be coached by them to have a real impact on me. I have no hesitancy to help somebody to see how to help me more effectively. And I have an openness to the possibility that maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe they can see something I can't see, but that's dancing. That's the dance of creation. To be able to be like, I'm going to just keep doing this the whole time. Whatever's needed. I'll put my hat this way, that way, this way. Let's create. Let's create. And I'm going to get to why whichever way your hat is facing, it's actually facing always all the time. I'll get to that. And then probably I don't know, at some point I've got a lot here. I know I'm going fast, but you can rewatch this, take notes, go back through it. So create your creating champion and how you see them and how you speak and how you ask, what you ask for. Be the client. This kind of goes along the lines of the hat backwards thing, right? Be the client that grows the creating champion. Be the client that grows the coach. I tell every coach that I hire or consultant every single time that I hire to help me, I said, me hiring you will change your life. I will be the best client you've ever had. Not just like, oh, I'm the obedient client. I'm going to do everything you say. It's like, no, that's not actually what I mean. What I mean is that the way that I show up in this relationship will elevate your possibility of how to be a client for yourself in your life or with your mentors or with your coaches. How I show up and what I create and what I produce, the energy that I bring to this is going to elevate your possibility of the work that you can do with other clients. I will raise the bar that you hold for your other clients through how I be with you and what we're able to produce together. And so when you show up to be supported by a creating champion in your peer support, show up in such a way where they go away from that thinking, geez, I maybe want to start showing up like that and when I'm being supported. Or geez, like that was pretty amazing. Maybe I should ask all my clients to show up that way. What if they all showed up like that person? That would be incredible. So be the client that raises the bar for the whole world. There's an opportunity when you're being supported by anybody to have an impact. Look, all creation, we can have the conversation that right now the support is flowing in that direction, from here to there. We can have that story, and there's a utility to that story, to that idea, to that meaning, right? There's an asynchronous dialogue happening, absolutely. Sorry, not asynchronous, asymmetric, wrong word. Asymmetric in the sense that the support is flowing in one direction. Asynchronous would be at different points in time. An asymmetric conversation. I am coaching you. You're the client, I'm the coach, or you're the I guess client, I'm the creating champion, new language. And that's just a story. Because the truth is, it's always flowing in both directions. Sorry for the visual metaphor, the sexual metaphor, but like when I am making love with my wife, right? I am giving her in such a way my lovemaking. And my wife's receptivity, her opening, her softening, has an impact on my being and my experience. When she receives and opens and softens in a dramatic way, I am created. I am given strength. I don't know where it comes from. It is born from my soul. There's a liberation, a sense of power. And so you, as the client with the creating champion in peer support or in full circle or anywhere, but in peer support, when you are the client, the way that you receive creates them. The way that you receive their dialogue, the way that you receive their question creates them. So you in the seat, the hot seat, so to speak, have an incredible opportunity to actually raise, elevate, and create the person who's supporting you through the way that you receive and show up in relationship to that. So you're not just supporting the person when you're supporting them, you're also supporting them when you're being supported by them. That is what I mean about like being the client that changes and evolves the coach. Like how you say yes, how you open, how you take them seriously, how you listen to the coaching and the support you're giving them is an act of outward creation of them and their world. You will impact them, you will impact their family, their clients, and the rest of their life by the way that you receive. Don't miss that, because that's something you want to learn. Cut your teeth on that here in Creator Circle. Practice that, experience that, and then you'll see yourself doing that in every relationship in your world. This is the whole point, right? Creator Circle is a context to elevate the relationship you have with yourself, and then you go out into the world, and then that relationship with every single person is elevated because it's an expression of how you relate to yourself. You do it here in the dojo, you learn to do it with yourself, you do it in the world, and everything goes up. So don't miss an opportunity when you're being supported or coached to see that you're actually also supporting and coaching on a deeper level. And the last piece here for when you're the client in peer support is when you're done being supported, share your insights that you created, not got, right? Watch your language on that. Oh, I'm not sure I got value. It's like, dude, if you're orienting towards getting value, then you're probably just going to get lucky sometimes because value is going to drop out of the sky and hit you in the head. But when you speak that I created value, I created value, I created value, I created value, what happens is you start to look where you can create value. So speak of your past in a way that you created, and you will live in a present as the creator. You'll see a future or possibility where you can create. You'll see a graveyard and you'll be like, shit, I could create some clients here because there's some dead bodies. I could walk through that place and they could come out of the ground and become clients. Right? So share your insights. Where to share them? Share them in Basecamp. Share them in Basecamp. After every peer support, go right in. We'll find a place for you to do it if it's not, or you could just, I don't know, on the calendar or something like that. Here's the insights and here's the commitments. Now I'm going to get deeper into how to do that, and specifically when I go to Full Circle, but don't miss the opportunity to do it here after peer support as well. Now let's shift focus from you being the client, being the person being supported in peer support, to now you're in the role of creating champion. You're the one providing support. Okay. If you're in Creator Circle, you should have access to ALICE, that's sort of training and creating dialogue. It is essentially the process that your creating champion are using in the full circle to support you. Obviously, there's a lot of depth and nuance to it, but at a high level, this is the process. It's 5 steps. If you haven't watched the training, go watch it. And if you don't know what to do in peer support, do that. Practice creating dialogue. Practice being able to help a person to see who they're being, which is you practicing seeing who another person is being. It cuts both ways. You can't practice seeing who somebody else is being without becoming better at seeing who you're being. And you can't practice seeing who you're being without becoming better at seeing who another person's being. So it's practicing the feeling, the seeing, and the speaking of being. And then it's practicing, there's every single step, right? What would you love to create today? It's practicing asking that question in a way that actually does something to a person. It's not just trying to get an answer, let's just get an outcome. Yeah, that's the secondary reason I guess we could ask the question. But remember, in creating, these questions are tools. They do things to people. So practice doing something to a person with that question. Get better at it. And you'll get better at doing things to people with all questions, but at least use the questions in the creating dialogue process and get good at doing something to a person, shifting their way of seeing and being in the world through that inquiry. Practice that. Practice feeling, seeing, and speaking being. Practice helping a person to overcome a way of being, to liberate themselves, freedom from a way of being that's limiting. Practice helping a person to get in touch with another way of being that is really freaking powerful, that could be transformative for them and their whole world. And practice helping to get a person clear on what they can actually do on the daily to actually bring that way of being to life. So it's not just a concept, an idea, but what's an actual practical thing that I can be doing that actually brings that way of being to life. And then also help a person to get from doing that to what is the action I'd be taking in the world that would be an expression of that being. Practice all of those things. Even if if you look at this person that you're supporting as a crash test dummy, and it's like, or a mannequin, and I'm just going to use it, or a punching bag, whatever you want to think about it. Obviously, I mean, it's not that aggressive, but it's not so much about, it doesn't have to be so much about making sure I serve this person, but let me use this person to get really freaking good at what I do. There's a both and in there, right? And I'm a champion for everyone. I have love for this person. They're in my circle. I want to support them. But I can have both those realities at the same time. I can show up for this. Like, I'm using the dojo metaphor again. It's like, I'm going to just spar and I'm going to get even better. I'm going to learn how to throw a kick in such a way where it gets under the arm and hits the ribs. I'm just zooming back to when I was a kid in martial arts. And I'm going to come out of this session even sharper, more skilled than I was before. And it really doesn't matter that much who I'm sparring with. It just matters that I've got a body that I can practice with. Right? So that's one idea to hold in parallel with the other ideas of love and service that are also true. So practice creating dialogue when you're a creating champion, when you're in that role. All right. Specifically within that, I guess I want to also flesh this one piece out, because I said earlier, there's going to be people that come in with all different skills, levels, and abilities, different degrees of power in the context of conversation in your circle, and you're going to be in conversation with all of them. In full circle, start and end, and then chat, in between sessions if you choose to, at peer support, you're going to be in conversation with them. And so if you see their power and you're able to see their way of being, and you're putting it on some scale and you're being like, well, the ones that are up here, it's valuable for me, and ones down here, it's not, you're missing the trick. You're missing that the power that you're seeing is out there and it's in you. It's both. It's not one or the other. And so your power is when you focus the idea of their power as within you, and you show up to the conversation, like I said earlier, being able to see them in a way that lifts them to greatness. But when you're in the role of creating champion, what I want you to practice is to see everybody that you're with. What do you have to, you want to see them up there. What do you have to do differently in your mind, with your ideas, with your thinking, with your way of talking to yourself, with your presence with your body, with your challenging of your own thinking? What do you have to do inside to be able to see them, not at a 3, but at a 10? The people who you see in your circle as having the least power, privately inside your own mind, or maybe secretly with 1 or 2 people, those people, like, how are you creating that? In 2 ways. How are you missing the other 7 points that could bring them up to a much higher level in your eyes and have you go, holy shit? Because I guarantee you that if you've been in Creator Circle for a while, you've already gone through that with some people, at least. You've been like, oh shit, I came in thinking this, and it's like, whoa, you blew me away. And that happens all the time because people make a false assumption about the totality of a person and their power most of the time right off the boat. But anyway, so you start looking, how am I doing that? How am I making them smaller than they are? How can I see them as more? And so you get better at seeing power that you were missing. Why is that important? Because guess what? If you're doing that with people out there, you're doing it with you too. You're doing it on the inside. And you're missing so many opportunities to serve people because you're missing power, right? And so sometimes it's power that's expressed that you're not seeing. And sometimes it's power that's unexpressed that you're not bringing out because you couldn't see it because it wasn't expressed. So a capacity for power that a person isn't bringing. See that. Ask them for it. Going back to like being the client again, ask them for it. Bring it out. But when you're in the role of creating champion, you want to see a person's power. You want to be able to look at a bum on the street, a homeless person, a beggar, and see their power. One of the most transformative experiences of my life was when I noticed that I was judging people who were begging for money in Santa Monica when I lived there, and I went deep into that, my own self-inquiry and the word beggar, and I read the definition of a beggar as a person who lives by asking for food and shelter. And the words lives by asking came flying out of that page, that dictionary, hit me in the head and exploded in my heart. And I was like, holy shit, these people live by asking. And the amount of trust that they have, that they will be taken care of, hit me in a way that I couldn't even imagine that was even possible. And now when I see somebody begging on the street, I see a power of vulnerability, a trust that I still aspire to in my own life. To be able to trust that all I need to do is ask and I will be cared for and taken care of. There's beauty in that. There's power in that. And until you start looking for it, you're not going to find it. So I implore you as a creating champion to see the immense unexpressed and expressed power in every single person you're with every single time. Practice it in Creator's Circle. You'll get better at doing it with yourself and with everybody you meet in the world. And you'll be able to elevate people to a higher degree of power because you're now seeing things that you missed before, both in expressed power and in unexpressed power. Be the best. Show up to peer support with the attitude, with the intent to be the champion. Not just in the sense that I'm a champion for you, but I'm the flippin' best. Like, what's going to happen through this Creator Circle is that around month 3 or 4, people are going to start asking, oh, actually, could I be paired up with JP and Kiara or Juliet James? Say, actually, we don't do that. It's on our rotation. Yeah, but he's just, or she's just really powerful. And it would be really great to just have another peer support. And then maybe, well, that's not going to work out. And then you're like, well, just reach out. Do you think I could have another conversation with you? Like, decide that people are going to want to be with you and peer support more than they're even going to want to be at Full Circle. More than they're going to want to show up with me in my creating sessions. Decide that you are going to be a light of service that is so free, so loving, and so powerful that everybody in this community is going to want to talk to you. And every single time you're in peer support is an opportunity to practice and express that. Otherwise, you're seeing it's like, oh, this is a waste. Oh, they're already in a coaching program. I'm not going to get them as a client. Or, they don't really show up very powerful, so I can't do much with them. They're kind of dead weight. It's like, that's your creation. Give me a dead body, and I will breathe life into them. Or at least I'll try. Why? Because that's where my power is. If I am not expressing that, then I am limiting myself. Don't really send me a dead body. I'm not going to coach a dead body, but you get the point. Where was I? Yeah, so be the best. Be the best and practice that every time you're in peer support. The last piece here, this is what I said earlier. I guess I'll repeat it here as well. When you're practicing creating dialogue or no matter what you're doing, you're using our questions as tools to create something. And so, there's a common purpose in Creator Circle. I guess I'll talk about that in the Full Circle piece too, but like the purpose that everybody is here for is to be more free, loving, and powerful as a creator of their life, of their world. And so somebody might have a particular outcome they want. Yeah, I'm interested in that, but it's not the most important thing. It is not the most important thing for me what their material external outcome is. It's important, but it's not the most important thing. The reason it's important is because it creates a context for what's most important, which is their liberation from their ideas, from their perspectives, from their patterns, from their psychology, from the developmental level that they're stuck at, right? It's their freedom. That's way more important than their material outcome for me. And also that when they're free, they're experiencing love. Love towards self, love towards other, love in the sense of the heart's desire, love as an agape, all-abiding love, love as a guiding force, right? That's way more important to me than their material outcome. But the material outcome is a context within which we can help them to access that in a way where they have some rubber meeting the road, some practical application of it. helping them to be free, helping them to experience love, and helping them to be more powerful, more explicitly, helping them to make a bigger difference in smaller amounts of time on their inner world and their outer world. How can they change themselves and grow themselves in a bigger way faster? How can they have more of an impact on other people in the world in shorter amounts of time, be it in their family, be it in their friendships, be it in their work relationships, be it with clients, be it everywhere and anywhere. So if you're in Creator Circle, that's what you've signed up for. That's what you're here to be and learn and to grow in. And that's what everybody else is here to be, grow, and learn. So I want you to come to peer support when you're in the role of creating champion, locked and loaded with that agenda. They're going to come with what they want, and you can help them get that, but help them get that, help them create that as a context for really helping them to be free, loving, and powerful. You come with the agenda of that, you show up in service of them and being the best, and I swear you're going to get more value out of championing people than you have before, and you're going to grow yourself more than you probably would anywhere else, any other time, any other place. So let me move on. I need some water. It's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. All right. Overall, full circle. Oh, let's do talk full circle next. So in relationship to your creating champion, the person leading your Creator Circle, your master trainer, I think that's the new term we're using now. So clients are now our clients in creating our creating champions, and the people on our team that are supporting you, master trainers. When other people are being supported, so you're showing up for Creator Circle, it's not your turn to be in dialogue, so you're there witnessing, you're in your third level listening, you've watched the third level listening videos already in the Creator Circle training, but to be specific and to zoom in on this for a second, like, you want to get, this is what I was referring to earlier, that everything cuts both ways. By you practicing seeing the power and the greatness in every single person in Creator Circle, that whole 2 hours, all you see is greatness, all you see is power. If you can do that for 2 hours, what you've just done is you've trained your mind. You've trained yourself in how to see being as powerful. And that will automatically, subconsciously, start being applied to yourself. You will see more of your own power. And that will, again, I'm going to point over this way. This is where the other people in the world seem to be living, in this metaphorical space during this conversation. And as you start to see that in your power in yourself, because you just practice seeing it in others for 2 hours in this circle, you'll start seeing it in yourself, and then you'll start seeing it in others in the world. And so every single time you're here, think of it as like a meditation, as an opportunity to practice creating power for yourself by seeing the power in others. And you see that when you're listening, when you're witnessing the conversation. The other thing, on a practical level, while you're listening to somebody else being supported by the master trainer, by the leader of the circle, and they're asking them questions or they're sharing things to them, you're going to have thoughts and ideas about what you would ask if you were doing that, or what you would say if you were there. Drop that shit in the chat. Don't hold it back. Don't keep it a secret. It's not a competition. It's a collaboration. Add it in. Throw your questions there, real time in the chat. Don't hold back. Right? In fact, if everybody was showing up this way, that whole chat is blowing up with 10 other people, whatever, how many other people are there trying to coach this person at the same time. And they don't have to watch that. They can focus on the live conversations that are happening, but all that thing is going to be documented. And if they want, they can go back through that later and they can be like, wow, look, I didn't think about that. This is a totally different angle. This is a totally different question. And they think about that. And there's so much possibility there. And they're also seeing, wow, everybody here supports me and cares about me, which is also true. But those other people that are asking those questions, they're in part doing it as an expression of care and being a champion and love for the other person. They're also doing it as I'm just a crash test dummy. I'm a punching bag. They're just practicing on me because they're here to get better. And you love that because that's what you're going to do when you're in that seat. So don't miss that opportunity to do it. Or in the very least, write it down privately in your notebook. Ask them if they want to hear it later if you don't feel like that you've got that permission. I mean, you do if you're in Creator Circle. Everybody's agreed that we're all game. Let's go. But at least write it down, capture it, and then share it in a way. Because every time you think of a question and then you write it down, or think of a question and then you share it, or perspective, write it down and share it, the act of getting it out of your mind onto pen and paper or into the chat box is the externalization of it. And guess what? That's like speaking. Saying it with your mouth is the most powerful, but like getting it out of you creates an experience of it and a memory of it that is greater than just thinking it and having it whisk out. So get it, once it comes up in your mind, get it out onto paper, into the computer, in some medium, so that you can breathe life into that. You'll get better as a creating champion faster if you express the possibilities that you see, if you speak the questions that you have in your mind, than you will if you just think them and let them float away. Yeah, so I guess this is part of that same one. I said watching versus practicing. So don't just watch. Practice the creating dialogue by expressing yourself, expressing the questions. The person doesn't have to respond to them for you to be practicing. You just got to get it out. That's that next step. Obviously, when it's a back and forth, it's a dance, there's even more value to it. But at least there can be this middle ground. Also, acknowledgement, right? What do I mean by acknowledging? Well, I made this distinction of referencing versus acknowledging. References are at the back of a book. Acknowledging is at the front. Referencing says, like, this is where I got this information because just in case you don't trust me, you can go find out the truth here. Whereas acknowledging is like, I'm so grateful for the influence that you had on me. I'm going to say thank you right up front. So it's slightly different, and there's a different energy to it. They have different functions. But for me, acknowledging is powerful because it elevates the person. And when I elevate them like that, I'm doing something called creating more power and possibility through speaking with love. And guess what I'm doing when I do that? I'm not just getting that outcome. I'm training myself in a way of being in the world towards other. And guess where other lives? As a perspective, as an idea inside my mind. I am an other in relationship to I, right? I am being. So there's two people in here. So I'm also the other. The self and the other inside are kind of one. So if I teach myself to acknowledge others, what's going to happen is I start to acknowledge myself as an overarching capacity and ability and habit, yes, but also specifically within the kinds of things I acknowledge people for. So if I acknowledge beauty in people, I'm going to start to see beauty in myself. If I'm being authentic, if I blow smoke out my ass towards somebody, oh, you're beautiful. I don't really think it, but I think I should say it because then you might like me. I'm actually talking shit. And that is actually going to teach me to talk shit to myself about myself. And I'm going to say I'm one thing and not really believe it. So it's important to have authentic acknowledgement. What does that look like? Well, remember what I said before? Look, when you're seeing somebody as a 3 instead of a 10 in power, you don't just blow smoke and be like, oh, you're powerful. No, you're powerful. I can't substantiate that, but I heard somebody else say it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to slow down and look for what am I missing? What's there that I wasn't seeing? What's an expressed power that I was missing? What's an unexpressed power that if I really pay attention and look at this person and see their innocence and look at their track record and their way of being, what's something that I was missing that's powerful? And when I see that and it's real, then speak it. Then speak the authentic things that acknowledge and lift a person up. And why do I want to do that? Well, again, there's many reasons. For me, the first and foremost one is I create a pattern of the ability to acknowledge, which I apply first to them, then inwardly, and then outwardly to everybody in the world. And the other reason is because it creates more of that in the world, in them and out there. It creates a ripple effect. If somebody goes away feeling more beautiful and more powerful because they received the acknowledgement that was expressed by me authentically, then I've just created more of that in the world, more freedom, love, and power and beauty in the world. Acknowledging creates. Don't miss an opportunity to acknowledge people. Don't blow smoke. Let's create a distinction, acknowledging versus blowing smoke, okay? First time I spoke it, let's run with it. What's the difference? Acknowledging comes from your truth. You saw it and felt it before you spoke it. Blowing smoke is you're saying it because you hope that they'll feel it and be grateful to you for it, and then you'll be loved by them and safe. Nah. I got these distinctions because I know how to do both, by the way. I hope that's obvious. Just being honest. Sharing insights and commitments. Oh, that's what I was speaking about earlier. At the end of peer support, but the end of full circle. So when I'm being coached, I'm watching somebody coach, taking notes, got a bunch of insights, and then after that, I read back through and I distill and consolidate. Okay, what is the essence? What are the main insights here, right? Then I do this thing I call triangulation. So let's say I've got an insight about, what's a recent one about how my freedom to fail is my greatest gift. It's a greater gift than my success. Okay, so that's one insight. That's over here. It's something I've been dwelling on recently, contemplating. Another insight I had recently is that actually I provide and I'm provided for simultaneously, that the act of providing is an experience of being provided for at the same time. It's kind of a deep concept, but I've been present with that too. And so triangulation would be, I just write both these things on a paper and I'd draw a line, then I'd draw 2 lines down to another point, and I would ask myself, when I apply this to that, what comes? Well, I'm provided and provided for, and my freedom to fail is my highest contribution. I'm provided and provided for, and my freedom to fail is my highest contribution. Whoa, my freedom to fail in providing is my highest contribution. And I'm doing this in real time with you right now. I haven't triangulated these two before, but what I just got, and my heart kind of was like opening, and I was like, oh, this is something new. I'll go away and explore this. But I got the possibility that my freedom to fail in providing for my wife, for my family, for my clients, that specifically is my highest contribution. Wow. So that's just a new insight for me, just produced right here. And all I do is I juxtapose one distinct insight with another distinct insight, and it creates a third insight. Okay, so that's something you can do to create even more value following a conversation that you are present to with your notes. And that's something that somebody who tries to get value never does. That shit does not fall out of the sky. Those first 2 things were created through a real present third level listening, and then I took those and I created something else after the fact. I mean, that's like next level creation of insight and value. So that's the first thing. I mean, you don't have to do that, but if you want to create more value from the conversations, juxtapose, triangulate, and create post the conversation. First, consolidate and distill down to like some basic distinct ideas, put them next to each other and see what they create together. And then, once you've got your ideas from the session, the way to turn it into even more value is to go from concept into practical application. Now, I'm always talking about this. I'm always doing this in every single conversation I'm in. But every time I get an insight, a perspective shift, a new possibility, I want to take that and turn it into 2 types of doings, 2 actions. I want to know, what can I do with that will take that idea and it will bring it to life in me? How can I practice that as a mantra, as a journal thing, an exercise, a list I can make, whatever the inner work is that will bring that to life. And I want to know an action that I can do in the world that's an expression of that new way of seeing or being. And sometimes these are the same action, because every outdoing is an indoing and every indoing is an outdoing, but I always start looking for them as separate. Otherwise I get kind of lazy and I just be like, oh yeah, that'll if I do that out there, that'll grow me inside. Or if I do that inner work, that's the same as doing it out. And more often than not, I'm using that distinction as a scapegoat. And so it's actually really useful to look through both lenses. What's something I can do with my journal, my meditation, in my daily life as an inward practice, and what's something I can do with that insight I provide and am provided for. What's something I can do externally in the world to express being a provider? And how can I cultivate the idea that I am both provider and provided for in my journaling, put it up on my board and contemplate it while I'm lifting weights and these kinds of things. Go for a run and speak it like a mantra for a half an hour, as I've done with every step up the hill, so that it's a half hour of focused attention on that possibility. That's an in-doing, right? An outdoing would be providing for my clients, coming home and providing them with insight, sharing something with them. This video is an expression of an outdoing of that insight. I provide and I am provided for. I'm spending a half hour or an hour creating a new piece of value for my existing clients that have already paid me money. I'm providing for you, and simultaneously by doing so, I am provided for. So those are 2 examples of how to create indoings and outdoings with a particular concept that was created during, well, I didn't create it in Creator Circle, but if it was in Creator Circle, that would be an example of that. And then I will share, when I have a coach, I let them know what I got, what my insights were, what I'm going to do, and when I'm going to do it by. Not because they asked me to, and sometimes they're not even interested. They're just like, I'm just telling them because that's how I operate. I share, I presence it in the world. I mean, you see me when I fill a Creator Circle or fill an event. I tell the whole world, here's where I'm going and here's where I'm at. Why do I do that? Because it creates a dynamic for me that is enrolling, and it creates an accountability that I love to use because it keeps me honest. It keeps me honest. And I'm not so concerned about taking the power out because you told people about it. I'm not trying to lean on that. I'm not trying to lean on like whatever. I don't even know why people think that way. Maybe somebody's got an idea, but like for me, holding myself to an account and keeping me honest has me be into contact with my truth. I mean, I love this book on Gandhi I've been reading, and he was all about total transparency. Every aspect of my life and my behavior in all domains is my religion, is my message. You should be able to see everything about me, and and hold me to account to this principle of satyagraha and ahimsa, which is the nonviolence and the love truth force that he was a stand for. And I aspire to that same ideal, I guess we could say. So consolidate your ideas, distill them down, triangulate if you'd like. And when you've got a bunch of powerful, distinct ideas, what's an outdoing and an indoing that I will specifically commit to, and when will I do that by, and then share that. Post it as a comment on that full circle in the schedule, or maybe we'll create some automated questions that come up in Basecamp every week so that you can put it there. But I'm telling you, if you take the time to do that, if you spend the 2 hours in your full circle and then a half hour, an hour afterwards, maybe the same day, next morning. I mean, for me it was like right after my coaching session, there'd be a distillation and review phase. The next morning, there'd be another distillation and review phase. And then I'd probably read it quickly every day, but at the end of the week, I would do another serious session where I distill and review. I should say distill, triangulate, and review. So every single time I sat down, right after, the next morning, and then within a week, and there's a reason for that pattern. It's like there's a half-life to memory and recall. I learned this when I studied accelerated learning, that like if you review something the next day and then at the end of the week and at the end of the month and then at the end of the year, you'll remember it forever. So you can kind of spread out the reviews longer and longer. Don't quote me on the exact time periods, but the point is every time you review it, the next review can be a longer distance away and you'll still increase your attention or maintain your understanding, let's say. Well, I'm starting to lose my voice. So do that. Do all that. And you're going to create more value from every full circle. Overall, I mean, I've already said these things, but I guess I wrote them down planning on saying at the end. It just kind of snuck in, so I'll review it. See Creator Circle as an opportunity to create both inwardly and outwardly in every situation, whether you're directly receiving support by the leader of the circle and it's your turn, whether you're watching somebody else be supported, whether you're checking in with what you'd love to create today, whether you're checking out with what you did create, whether you're typing in the comment chat, whether you're showing up in peer support to support, whether you're preparing for peer support to support or be supported, where you're showing up in peer support to be supported, whether you're coming to the call with me, whether you're going to a Monday dialogue, like all the things that are accessible to you once you're in Creator Circle, everything. How you show up in Basecamp, every single place, look at it as an opportunity to sharpen your mastery, to be the best. I want every single person in Creator Circle showing up with a commitment to be top of the leaderboard, to be the most powerful creating champion in the circle. I want you to outshine me and your trainers, your leaders of the circle, everybody, right? Not from a competitive standpoint, from a collaborative standpoint, because your mastery, your being the best will raise everybody. It will raise the bar for everybody. And for those who get scared off by that, we've got a container and they paid up front. They're not going anywhere. And if they really have an issue, we're going to find out about it and we're going to talk to them. So don't worry about that. Let us worry about that. We're going to hold the container. You show up the best. Don't hold back. Don't diminish your light. Aspire to greatness and let this be a context where you do that at a more intense degree than you do anywhere else. And you're going to find more freedom to do that as a way of being that will then express itself in the world. So remember, let it be the dojo. Look, the doors are always open. There's always somebody here training. You can walk in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can pick up some mitts and you can practice. So you don't have to wait. It's always available. And the more time you spend creating and practicing in this space, the more skilled you're going to become, the more you're going to evolve your psychology, the more you're going to train the heart to be able to liberate, to be free, to have love in it, and to be able to make more of a difference for yourself, for your world. And remember, again, the other thing that I was saying earlier, just to summarize here at the end, everybody has signed up for Creator Circle because they want to grow in their freedom, their love, and their power to create. Full stop. So we have a common purpose. We have a common mission. And you can show up in every single conversation helping a person to create what they say they want to create, secondarily to your primary purpose to help them to be free, loving, and powerful in the creation of everything. All right? So be committed to that agenda, and you're going to get better and better at it, and you're going to have more fun, and you're going to start to see the through line of everybody being there, and it's going to have you feel more connected to everybody in the circle. I love you so much for your commitment to Creator Circle. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.